I thought my best friend was just borrowing my clothes and lipstick. In reality, she was borrowing me, my name, my credit, my future, until I could barely recognize who I was anymore. Her name was Tessa. We met in 7th grade. Two awkward kids hiding behind oversized hoodies, trying not to exist. She was louder, sharper, magnetic in a way I could never be. If there was a rule, she bent it. If there was a line, she crossed it, smiling. And somehow we fit. By high school, people said our names like they were one word, Maya and Tessa. She borrowed my shoes before dances. I copied her history notes before finals. We promised each other we'd be bridesmaids at each other's weddings. Back then, I thought it was normal to share everything. I just didn't realize she was practicing. The first warning sign was small, almost forgettable. I opened my mailbox one Tuesday to find a letter from a credit card company I'd never heard of. Thank you for your application. I hadn't applied for anything. I told myself it was a typo, a random mix-up. Tossed it in the trash, didn't even mention it to Tessa. But then came another letter. Congratulations. Your new account is active. I felt my stomach drop. I called the company, rattled off my personal details trying to sound calm. And then came the words that made my blood run cold. Ma'am, the mailing address on this account. It isn't yours. It's. I didn't need her to finish. I already knew. Tessa's. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to some stranger talk about fraud investigations and legal responsibility, while my best friend's address burned in my brain like a brand. That night, I drove to her apartment. I wanted answers, but I didn't want to believe what I already knew. She opened the door wearing my sweater, and smiled like nothing was wrong. Why night? She asked, holding up a bottle. I tried to sound casual, like my voice wasn't shaking. Weird thing. I got a letter about a credit card. It had your address. For half a second, her eyes widened, barely noticeable. But I saw it. Then came the laugh, soft and practiced. Oh my God, these companies screw things up all the time, May. Don't stress about it. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. She'd been there when my parents divorced. Held my hair back when I threw up at prom. She was my safe place. But that laugh, there was a crack in it. I ignored it. I convinced myself I was imagining things. Weeks passed. She borrowed my dress for a date. I borrowed her air fryer. Life went on. Until the day my debit card declined at the grocery store. First, I thought it was a glitch. But when I checked my balance, my account was empty. I raced to the bank, panic clawing up my throat. Withdrawal after withdrawal scrolled across the screen. Places I'd never been, charges I'd never made. And then I saw the address attached to one of the transfers. Her street. I left the bank in a fog. The city spinning around me like a carousel I couldn't step off. That night, I went back to Tessa's. She opened the door again in another one of my sweaters, like she was peeling pieces of me away, one by one. She smiled like we were still those girls in oversized hoodies, like nothing was broken. But over her shoulder on the kitchen counter, I saw something that made my heart stop cold. A credit card statement. With my name on it. I didn't even have to pick it up. I knew that blue and white design. My bank. My account. My name. She saw where I was looking. And for the first time in 15 years of friendship, her smile didn't reach her eyes. Don't overthink this, May, she said softly, almost kindly. You and me, we share everything. Her voice was honey, but the words dripped poison. And right there, standing in her doorway, I finally understood. This wasn't sharing. This was theft. And God help me, I had no idea how deep she'd already gone. I thought she only wanted my money. But then I realized she wanted my entire life. After that night in her apartment, sleep became impossible. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The image of my name on her bill burned into my eyelids. My mind kept looping one question over and over. How long had this been happening? The next morning, I tore through every piece of mail, every statement, every notification piled on my kitchen counter. I read them like evidence at a crime scene. And that's when I noticed it. Tiny cracks in my reality. Charges I didn't remember making. Addresses that weren't mine. And then, buried in one of my accounts, a phone number I didn't recognize until I did. It was hers. Tessa had stitched herself into my record so carefully that companies thought we were the same person. My stomach twisted. I grabbed my laptop and opened my credit report for the first time in my life. My fingers shook on the keyboard. The page loaded, and my entire world tilted. 6 credit cards, 2 car leases, an apartment rental in another city, all in my name. I felt like someone had cracked open my life and rearranged it while I slept. Like I'd woken up inside someone else's nightmare. I called her. My voice trembled so hard I barely recognized it. Tessa. What the hell is going on? She didn't even sound guilty. You're being dramatic, May. It's just paperwork. I've had rough patches. I didn't think you'd mind. Didn't think I'd mind? Like draining my accounts, wrecking my credit, and hijacking my identity was a casual favor between friends. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. My chest felt tight, my pulse roaring in my ears. For the next week, I lived in survival mode. Calls to banks, freezing accounts, reporting fraud. But every time I thought I'd sealed a leak, another hole opened. Her fingerprints were everywhere. And then came the moment that shattered the last of my denial. I was sitting in a cafe when a stranger stopped at my table, smiling like he knew me. Maya. His face lit up. Wow, no red dress today? I blinked. I'm sorry, do I know you? His grin faltered. It's me, Aaron. From last week. We went out. The blood drained from my face. I had never seen this man before in my life. But someone had. Someone had introduced herself as me. I think you've made a mistake. I whispered, but the words barely reached him. Confusion flickered across his face. Then anger. He muttered something under his breath and stormed out, leaving me frozen at the table, staring at the untouched coffee in front of me. I drove straight to Tessa's apartment, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. She opened the door wearing my hairstyle, parted the same way I always did it. She looked at me with a lazy, practiced smirk, like she was expecting me. What now? She sighed. You went out with someone, I said slowly, steadying my voice. Using my name. Her lips curved, unbothered. He thought you were charming, she said. You should thank me. It hit me like a slap. This wasn't about money anymore. She wasn't just living under my name. She was becoming me. My nails dug into my palms so hard they left crescent moons in my skin. Tessa, this stops now. She tilted her head, almost amused, and whispered, You can't stop me. And the terrifying thing? She was right. Because while I was still scrambling to protect my past, she already had a head start on stealing my future. I thought I was reclaiming pieces of myself. But every record I checked only proved one thing. Tessa had stolen more of me than I ever imagined. The morning after our confrontation, I drove straight to the county clerk's office. I didn't even know exactly what I was looking for. Proof, maybe. A reason to believe I wasn't going insane. I gave the clerk my name, my social security number. She typed quickly, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the screen. Which one? She asked casually. I frowned. What do you mean? She turned her monitor slightly toward me. We have multiple records for Amaya Carter. You'll need to specify which. Multiple. My stomach dropped. Print them. All of them. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in the hallway clutching a stack of papers so thick it could have been a novel. My hands trembled as I flipped through page after page. Apartment rentals. Car leases. Business registrations. Contracts with signatures that were supposed to be mine but weren't. Every page screamed my name. Every address, every witness, every phone number screamed hers. Tessa. I stumbled outside, blinded by the sunlight, clutching the papers like they might burn me. The city noise blurred into a distant hum. Car horns, footsteps, chatter. All of it drowned beneath one deafening thought. She's been living an entire life as me. That night, I spread the documents across my kitchen table like evidence in a murder case. I tried to build a timeline, hoping it would make sense. It didn't. 3 years ago, she'd leased a car under my name. Last summer, she rented an apartment. Last winter, she opened 2 new lines of credit. And then I found it. A mortgage application. Pending approval. For a house. She wasn't done stealing. She was just getting started. I grabbed my phone, my hand shaking so violently I could barely hit call. She answered on the second ring, her voice smooth and casual, like we were chatting about dinner plans. Hey May. Miss you. I almost couldn't get the words out. Why are you doing this to me? Silence. Then soft laughter, light and mocking. Doing what? We've always shared everything. Clothes. Secrets. Her tone shifted, sharp and cold. Now opportunities. You've ruined my credit, Tessa, I hissed. You've destroyed my name. You're living better than you ever did. She cut me off. And people like me more when I'm you. Doesn't that sting? I froze, the phone pressed against my ear. My throat tightened until it hurt to breathe. I slammed it down before she could hear me crack. For hours I just sat there staring at the papers, while burning the back of my throat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to set them all on fire. Erase every trace of this nightmare. But fire wouldn't prove anything. I needed evidence she couldn't spin into a lie. So I started digging. Every night after work, I sat at my laptop, combing through online databases, downloading bank statements, filing for copies of every legal document under my name. My apartment transformed into a war room. Manila folders stacked high, sticky notes covering the walls, red strings connecting dates and addresses like I was chasing a serial killer. Because that's what she was. A killer. Not of bodies, of identities. And then one night, scrolling through her Instagram, I saw it. A photo posted from a rooftop bar. Tessa was smiling, cocktail in hand, wearing my signature shade of lipstick. At first it looked normal. Until I noticed the reflection in the glass behind her. A man's hand rested casually on her shoulder. His face was half hidden, but I knew that cuff. It was Aaron. The man from the cafe. The man who thought he'd gone on a date with me. My chest constricted as a new, colder realization washed over me. Tessa wasn't just stealing my credit. She wasn't just stealing my records. She was stealing my relationships. Every possible connection, every potential future, every chance I hadn't even had yet. She was taking it before I could live it. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. My hands gripping the edge of the table to steady myself. And in that moment I understood something terrifying. She didn't want my money. She didn't want my name. She wanted everything I could ever have. And I was running out of time to stop her. He looked at me like I was a liar. Because she had already told him who I was supposed to be. For days that rooftop photo haunted me. Aaron's hand on her shoulder. His smile reflected back at her. Meant for me but aimed at her. I told myself to forget it. To focus on locking down my accounts, freezing my credit, protecting what little I still had left. But every time I tried to work, to cook, to sleep, his voice from the cafe replayed in my head. The way he'd said my name. The way he thought he knew me. And then one afternoon fate twisted the knife. I saw him again. It was outside a bookstore, sunlight spilling across the sidewalk. I was juggling a paper bag of groceries when I heard a voice, his voice. Maya. My breath caught. I turned. It was him. Aaron. Same warm eyes, same easy smile. Relief washed over me like a wave. Maybe now, face to face, I could explain. Maybe he'd believe me. Aaron, I said quickly, before he could speak again. We need to talk. About Tessa. But his smile faltered instantly. His expression hardened. Oh, he muttered. So you're admitting it now. I blinked confused. Admitting what? He crossed his arms, his voice flat. Tessa warned me you'd try this. Try what? She told me you'd pretend she was using your name. That you'd twist things. She said you've been unstable lately. I swear the ground tilted beneath me. She had gotten to him first. She had written my script before I even opened my mouth. I stepped forward, desperation clawing at my throat. Aaron, listen to me. She's pretending to be me. She's opened accounts, taken out leases, wrecked my credit. He raised a hand, stopping me cold. His face softened into something worse than anger. Pity. Look, he said. I don't know what happened between you two, but she told me you'd say exactly this. She said you'd try to convince people she was the imposter. Honestly, I don't have time for whatever game this is. Game. The word hit me like a slap. I wanted to scream, to drag him to my apartment, to shove every fraudulent document into his hands until he had to believe me. But deep down I knew the truth. Tessa had poisoned the well before I even had a chance. I stood there frozen on the sidewalk as he walked away, each step carrying him further into the reality she'd built, and further away from mine. By the time I got home, Rage had burned away my shame and hardened into resolve. She wanted to rewrite me out of existence? Fine. I'd drag her into the light. That night, I went through her social media again, combing captions, geotags, RSVP lists. And then I saw it, an invitation to a high-profile charity gala. Not under her name. Under mine. I stared at the glowing screen, my heart pounding. She wasn't just stealing my identity in secret anymore. She was parading it. Walking through doors that would never open for me. Unless I followed her in. And for the first time, a plan began to take shape. I'd show up. Face her. Expose her in front of everyone. But as I sat there, clutching my phone in the dark, a cold thought slid into my mind like a blade. What if she was expecting me? What if this wasn't just me trapping her? What if she was already setting the trap for me? I closed my laptop, heart hammering, and whispered into the silence. If she wants a war, I'll give her one. The night I walked into that gala, I wasn't just fighting for my reputation. I was fighting for the right to exist as myself. The venue glittered like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers spilling gold across marble floors. Guests gliding past in silk gowns and black tuxedos. The air hummed with money, power, and polished smiles. I didn't belong there. And I didn't care. My heels clicked like war drums on the polished stone as I crossed the lobby, clutching my bag so tightly my knuckles ached. Inside it were my weapons. Bank statements, fraudulent contracts, credit reports, all marked with her fingerprints. My arsenal. I spotted her almost immediately. Tessa. She stood near the champagne bar, surrounded by a semicircle of glittering strangers hanging on her every word. And there it was, pinned to her gown like a trophy. My name. Maya Carter. Her hair was styled exactly like mine, down to the loose strand tucked behind her ear. A detail so small only I would notice. Even her dress. I recognized it. Not the exact same one, but a designer knockoff of the one I wore to my cousin's wedding 3 years ago. She'd studied me, perfected me, weaponized me, and the crowd believed her. They leaned closer when she spoke, laughed when she laughed. They thought she was me. I forced myself forward, every step heavier than the last. My chest was tight, my throat dry, but anger burned hot enough to keep me moving. When she saw me, she didn't flinch, didn't blink. Her smile never wavered. She placed her champagne flute down gently, excused herself from the group, and glided toward me like a queen descending her throne. "May," she purred, voice sweet as honey. "I didn't think you'd come." I wanted to scream, "That's because you didn't invite me." Instead, I locked eyes with her and whispered, sharp as glass, "Take off that badge." Her smile widened. "Why? You're not using it." The words sliced clean through me, but I didn't back down. My voice rose before I even realized it. "She's pretending to be me." Conversations around us hushed. Heads turned. Curious whispers rippled through the crowd. But Tessa? She thrived under the spotlight. Her performance sharpened with every glance, every held breath. "Maya," she said softly with practiced pity. "Please, don't do this again. We talked about your episodes." Laughter broke out somewhere behind me. Uneasy, awkward. Episodes. She was painting me as unstable right there in front of everyone. I yanked the papers from my bag, spreading them across the nearest table. "These are leases. Contracts. Credit reports." She forged my name. She's been living as me. I expected shock, outrage, questions, but no one moved. No one leaned in. Instead, Tessa sighed, a soft, pitying sound, and shook her head. "Do you see what I mean?" she said, turning toward the audience she'd built. "She collects random paperwork, convinces herself it's proof, and storms into events like this. She needs help." Her eyes shone with perfectly timed tears. And they believed her. I could see it, the sideways glances, the whispers, the subtle shifting away from me like I was contagious. My throat burned, but rage steadied my hand. I grabbed a pen from the table, scrawled my signature across a napkin, and shoved it toward her. "If you're me," I said, my voice steady, "sign your name next to mine." For the first time, her smile cracked. Just slightly. But enough. Eyes turned to her, expectant. She didn't move. Didn't reach for the pen. Instead, she leaned forward, close enough that only I could hear, and whispered, venom dripping from every syllable. "If you force me tonight, I'll burn everything you have left. Your job, your family, your future. You'll have nothing to go back to." Then she straightened, her perfect smile restored, and addressed the crowd brightly. "Not tonight, May. Let's not embarrass ourselves further." Before I could respond, a hand touched my shoulder. "Security." "Ma'am," one of them said, voice low but firm. "We're going to need you to leave." The crowd parted. Whispers followed me like smoke. And as they led me out under the harsh white lobby lights, it hit me like a blade to the ribs. I hadn't exposed her. She'd exposed me, as the crazy woman claiming she didn't exist. The night they dragged me out of that gala, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just fighting Tessa. I was fighting the version of me she had already convinced the world was real. Outside, the cool night air hit me like ice, but it didn't wake me up. I just stood there on the sidewalk, heels sinking into the pavement, clutching my bag like a shield while laughter from inside drifted through the doors. She was still in there, wearing my name, owning my life. For a moment, shame swallowed me whole. The crowd had stared at me like I was broken, unstable, delusional, and she'd orchestrated every second of it. But shame didn't last. By the time I reached my apartment, something inside me had hardened. I couldn't beat her in public, not yet. She thrived on performance, on bending perception until truth snapped under its weight. If I wanted to win, I needed evidence she couldn't spin. So the next morning I called a lawyer. Her name was Angela. Dark blazer, sharper eyes, zero small talk. I laid everything out on her desk, the forged documents, the bank statements, screenshots, even photos from Tessa's Instagram. Angela flipped through the pages silently, her expression unreadable. Finally, she leaned back, steepling her fingers. "This isn't just identity theft," she said flatly. "This is fraud, wire transfers, maybe even stalking. If we build this right, she's looking at prison time." Prison. The word should have made me feel safe. Instead, my stomach dropped. Because prison time meant war. And Tessa had already proven she was willing to fight dirty. Angela must have seen the fear in my face. Her voice softened, but only slightly. "The key," she said, "is to trap her in a lie she can't escape. Paper alone won't win this. I need her face, her voice, her pretending to be you. That's the kind of evidence a jury can't ignore." Her face, her voice. That night, I scrolled through Tessa's social media like a predator hunting prey. Every caption, every story, every tag. And then I found it. A video clip from the gala reposted by someone else. Tessa laughing, introducing herself to a stranger. Her voice ringing clear over the background noise. "Hi, I'm Maya Carter." Hearing my name spill from her lips, smooth, confident, rehearsed, made my chest ache. But it was gold. I saved the video, backed it up, sent it to Angela immediately. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered. But hope burned out fast. The next evening, I came home from work and froze in the doorway. My apartment looked untouched. Perfect. Except for one thing. On the kitchen counter sat a single envelope. No stamp. No address. Just my name, written in handwriting that mimicked mine almost perfectly. My pulse roared in my ears as I tore it open. Inside was a photo of me, taken through the window of my living room. I dropped the picture, my hands trembling, heart slamming against my ribs. On the back, written in looping script that matched my own almost too perfectly, were 3 words. "Careful, May. Watching." I stumbled backward, scanning the dark corners of my apartment, every creak of the walls suddenly deafening. She'd been here, inside my sanctuary, watching me. And just like that, I understood something even worse than before. She hadn't just stolen my identity. She was inside my life now. The moment I saw that photo on my counter, I knew something had shifted. This wasn't just about stolen money or forged documents anymore. She was inside my home. Inside my life. Inside me. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark with every light off, gripping a kitchen knife I barely had the strength to hold. Every creak of the walls sounded like her footsteps. Every shadow on the ceiling looked like her silhouette. I stared at the window where the photo must have been taken, my breath shallow, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. That's what she wanted. She wanted me unraveling. She wanted me scared enough to make mistakes. And for a while it worked. By dawn though, something inside me hardened. Fear was her fuel. If I kept feeding it, she'd win without lifting a finger. So I stopped running. The next morning, I walked into Angela's office and placed the photo on her desk. "She's been inside my apartment," I whispered. "She's watching me." Angela studied the image, her expression as sharp as the lines of her suit. "Good," she said finally. I stared at her. "Good. It means she's sloppy," Angela explained. "Sloppy means we can trap her. But you have to be ready to take risks." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were steel. "What kind of risks?" I asked, my throat dry. "Plant something," she said. "Give her bait. Make her take it. If she does, we'll have proof no one can argue with." I froze. The thought of luring Tessa closer made my stomach twist. But the truth was, she was already inside my world. Pretending she wouldn't make her leave. I nodded. "Let's do it." That night I set the trap. I printed fake bank statements, highlighted imaginary accounts, and spread them across my dining table like breadcrumbs. On top, I placed a handwritten note to myself. "Call the bank Monday, move money before they freeze the account." Then I left. I spent the night at my cousin's apartment across town, pacing the floor, checking my phone every hour, waiting for a sign she'd taken the bait. By morning, dread sat heavy in my chest as I drove home. My hands were slick on the steering wheel. Half of me prayed nothing had happened. The other half prayed she'd fallen right into it. When I opened the door, I stopped cold. The table was empty. The fake papers were gone. In their place sat another envelope. Inside was a note, written in handwriting so close to mine it made my stomach turn. "Thanks for the tip, May. Money's safe with me now." Tucked behind it was a small USB drive. I just stood there staring at it, my pulse hammering so loudly it drowned out every other sound. Finally, with shaking hands, I plugged it into my laptop. A single video file blinked back at me. I pressed play. The screen filled with grainy footage from a hidden camera. My apartment. My living room. And there she was. Tessa. She walked in like she owned the place. Opening drawers, rifling through papers, her movements deliberate, confident. Then she stopped, turned toward the camera, and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was a warning. At the end of the video, she leaned in close, filling the frame with her face. Her voice came out in a whisper, soft but sharp enough to cut through bone. "You can't win, May. Because no one believes you exist anymore." I slammed the laptop shut, my breath coming in ragged gasps. She knew. She knew I'd set the trap. And she'd walked right into it anyway. Just to show me she wasn't afraid. That USB wasn't proof. It was a message. And the message was clear. This wasn't a game anymore. It was war. When I watched her whisper into my own camera, I knew one thing. It was time to stop defending myself. I wasn't going to survive this by hiding. If she wanted a stage, I'd burn it down around her. Angela and I planned everything down to the second. We chose a high-profile networking event Tessa had RSVP'd for under my name. Cameras everywhere. Live streams. Dozens of witnesses. Perfect. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to make sure there was nowhere to run. The night of the event, I stood outside the towering glass building, my reflection staring back at me like a stranger. My palms were slick, my chest tight, but I forced my breathing to steady. Angela's words echoed in my head. "Confidence is your weapon. She thrives on perception. Tonight we control it." I walked inside. The air buzzed with chatter, clinking glasses and the quiet hum of power. Lights from chandeliers spilled like molten gold over polished marble floors. Every step I took echoed in my ears, too loud, too final. And then I saw her. Tessa. Wearing another version of me. Her hair, her makeup. Even the delicate necklace I'd worn in every one of my old ID photos. She stood in the center of a small crowd, laughing softly, holding a champagne flute like she belonged there. Because everyone believed she did. When she spotted me, her smile didn't falter. Not even a flicker. "Oh, May," she cooed, her voice smooth as silk. "Still chasing me?" I met her gaze and smiled back, steady and cold. "No," I said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I'm ending you." Heads turned. Conversations hushed. Someone lifted a phone, recording. Perfect. I handed my phone to the event coordinator, who'd agreed to help. My voice carried across the hall. "Everyone, watch this." The lights dimmed slightly as the projector flickered to life. And then across a 30-foot screen the footage played. Grainy but clear. Tessa walking into my apartment. Tessa rifling through my things. Tessa leaning close to the camera and whispering, "You can't win, May." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones shot up like a forest of raised hands. I stepped forward, my voice sharp, unshakable. She stole my name, my credit, my life. And now you've all seen it with your own eyes. For the first time, Tessa's mask cracked. She laughed. Too loud, too forced, trying to claw back control. This is fake. She planted this. She's been stalking me, hacking me. Angela emerged from the crowd like a blade unsheathed, holding up a sealed evidence bag with the original USB inside. Chain of custody intact, she said coolly. Filed copies already sent to law enforcement. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Someone whispered identity theft. Another muttered fraud. Tessa's voice wavered, her practice calm unraveling thread by thread. Don't listen to her. She's lying. She's. Security, the same men who once dragged me out of the gala, stepped forward again. But this time they were walking toward her. She stumbled back, her champagne flute shattering on the marble. Her perfect poise slipped, and for a fleeting second, the real Tessa surfaced. Raw, cornered, furious. Her gaze locked on mine. And in a whisper only I could hear, she hissed, "If I go down, I'm taking you with me." Flashes erupted as cameras captured everything. Her fury, my silence, the evidence still glowing on the screen behind us. For the first time in months, the world finally saw her for what she really was. But as security closed in and she was let out, thrashing and shouting my name, one thought chilled me to the bone. Winning this round didn't mean the war was over. The night they dragged Tessa out of that ballroom, I thought it was over. But I was wrong. Winning the crowd wasn't the same as winning my life back. What followed was months of war. Police reports. Depositions. Court hearings. Endless stacks of paperwork spread across Angela's desk like battlefield maps. Every detail of my life became evidence. Bank statements. Credit reports. Old emails. Even photos of me standing in places Tessa had claimed she'd been. It felt invasive, humiliating, like stripping myself bare in front of strangers. But it was necessary. Angela drilled me like a commander before battle. Stay consistent. Stick to facts. Let the evidence speak louder than your anger. I clung to those words like a lifeline, because deep down I still feared her. Even with the video, even with the documents, even with the mountain of proof, a part of me kept whispering, what if they believe her again? The day of the trial, the courthouse steps were lined with reporters. Cameras flashed, microphones shoved in my face. Are you suing your best friend? Did you fake the footage? Is it true you're unstable? Each question felt like a dart, but I kept my head high. Inside, the courtroom smelled like polished wood and tension. The judge sat tall behind the bench, his gaze cold and heavy. The gallery buzzed with whispers, a sea of strangers waiting to decide which version of me was real. And then she walked in. Tessa, dressed in soft beige, minimal makeup, hair loose around her shoulders, the perfect picture of innocence. Her lawyer painted her as the victim from the start. A devoted friend betrayed by my obsession. A woman harassed by someone who'd fabricated video evidence and hacked accounts to destroy her life. She cried on cue. She laughed when appropriate. She told the jury I was unstable, dangerous, delusional. For a moment it almost worked. I saw their faces soften, saw their eyes flicker toward me with doubt. But then Angela stood. And she pressed play. The footage filled the silent courtroom. Tessa walking into my apartment. Tessa rifling through my drawers. Tessa leaning close to the hidden camera and whispering, "You can't win, May." The room went dead quiet. I heard someone in the gallery gasp. Even the judge leaned forward, his jaw tight. Angela didn't stop there. She walked the jury through leases with forged signatures, credit cards opened in my name, security footage from banks where Tessa had posed as me. Fact after fact. Lie after lie. Evidence she couldn't escape. The verdict came faster than I expected. Guilty. Fraud. Identity theft. Trespassing. I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt free. But sitting there watching them put her in handcuffs, I didn't feel victory. I felt hollow. Because no sentence, no verdict, No judge's ruling could give me back what she'd taken. She'd stolen my name, my trust, my sense of safety. Pieces of me I didn't know how to rebuild. Even now, people whispered when I walked into rooms. Even now, I caught strangers scanning me like they weren't sure if I was the thief or the victim. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded the steps again. "How does it feel to win?" someone shouted. I wanted to tell them it didn't feel like winning. It felt like surviving. That night, I went home to my apartment. Locks changed, cameras installed, everything scrubbed clean of her shadow. I stood in front of the mirror, stared into my own reflection, and whispered, "I am Maya Carter." It sounded fragile, but it was real. And then as I set my phone down, it buzzed in my hand. A blocked number. Against my better judgment, I answered. First only static. Then a whisper, soft and unmistakable. "This isn't over, May. Not for me. Not for you." I thought the trial would give me closure. I thought a guilty verdict would put an end to everything. But when someone steals your entire life, you don't walk away whole. You walk away carrying the cracks they left behind. The phone call haunted me for weeks. That voice, hers, whispering my name like a promise. "This isn't over, May." I told myself she couldn't touch me anymore. She was behind bars. She'd been convicted. But paranoia doesn't listen to reason. Every knock at the door made my chest tighten. Every unfamiliar number on my phone made my hands tremble. Sometimes I'd catch my own reflection in a store window and for half a second, wonder if it was me or her. Slowly, though, I began piecing my life back together. I started small. New bank accounts. New passwords. Two-factor everything. Each tiny step forward felt like stitching up a wound. The day I logged into my bank account and saw a balance that was finally mine. No mystery charges, no forged withdrawals, no shadow signatures. I broke down crying at my kitchen table. It was the first time in months I felt like I owned something again. People came back too. Friends who had believed her more than me. Friends who admitted they'd been confused, manipulated. Some apologized. Some didn't know what to say. I didn't blame them anymore. Tessa had been convincing, too convincing. But rebuilding trust was harder than changing passwords. Not just with them. With myself. And then one evening, I walked into the same cafe where I'd met Aaron. The man she dated under my name. The man who once looked at me like I was lying. He was there, sitting alone by the window. For a moment I hesitated. Then he looked up and saw me. This time there was no confusion in his eyes. He stood, walked over and said softly, "I'm sorry." "For what?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. "For doubting you. For believing her." I searched his face for pity or regret. I found neither. Only recognition. Not of the mask she wore. Of me. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I smiled, a real smile, one that reached my eyes. Life didn't go back to what it was before. It couldn't. But maybe that was the point. Because I learned something in the wreckage she left behind. Identity isn't just numbers on paper or names on cards. It's how you carry yourself when the world believes you're someone else. She could forge my signature, steal my credit, even rewrite my story, but she could never steal me. The last time I stood in front of the mirror, I looked myself straight in the eyes and whispered, "I am Maya Carter." This time I believed it. That night, as I turned off the lights and slid under the covers, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A notification. I frowned, picking it up. An email. No subject. No text. Just one image attached. A photo. Of me. Standing in front of my building. Taken today. My hands went cold. And beneath the image, 3 words typed in a font I recognized all too well. "See you soon."